Right, so in this video, the first thing that I'm going to do is look at how to do a risk assessment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get some guidance on putting a risk assessment together, and then we're going to run through an example. So the first thing that I'll do is go to Google, and I'm going to type in HSE 5 steps to risk assessment, which will then bring me to a PDF download. Now I'm going to save a copy of this onto my desktop, and then I'm going to drag it across. And if we open this, this leaflet gives us the kind of 5 parts of a risk assessment that we need to concentrate on. So if we have a look at this, it takes us quite simply through what we should include in our risk assessment. So I'm going to run through an example. So there's various templates, etc., out there, but just for now, I'm gonna create a very simple template to work from, which kind of covers these steps. This third step I might split into a couple of kind of sub steps, but the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in risk assessment, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change the page so that we've got more of a landscape layout rather than the portrait, and then I'm going to put a table in place to help me put the risk assessment together. So based on the number of steps, we've got identify hazards, who might be harmed and how, evaluate risks, record findings, and review, update as necessary. I'm going to put about 6 columns in here. So let's go to 6, and let's go 4 down. So that's our risk assessment, and we're going to put other things into a risk assessment. I'm just going to save this onto my desktop. So we're going to just copy some of these headings now into the top of it. So the first one that we're going to copy is identify hazard. Now, if you're wondering what a hazard is defined as something that's got the potential to cause harm. So it could be a chemical, it could be a work activity like working from a ladder, or use of grinder wheels, or it could be working from a scaffold tower, it could be slip, trips and falls. And then the risk is really like the likelihood of harm occurring. So the risk is quantified. It could be a number. My personal preference is to keep it really simple and just use a traffic light system of kind of high, medium and low. High being red, medium being yellow, and low being green. So what the next stage is basically to put who might be harmed and how. Evaluate the risk, so put risk level. We need to decide on precautions, so what I'll call that is control measures. One thing I like to do is put the risk level after controls are made to show that how you've brought down the risk. And we can put on this one review date, or date of completion might be better. So there's other things that we can do with a risk assessment. For example, we could put a responsible person for the controls. One of the things that we'll have to do is we'll have to date the risk assessment and put a date of review. So we'll put these at the top. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a couple of hazards. Now the first thing that we're going to have to do on our risk assessment is we're going to have to decide what we're actually doing. So if I put description of job or description of task in here, and we'll fill in another couple of details. So we're going to have like site address, and we're going to put date, and I'm also going to put the I'm going to put the names of the employees. Okay, so let's make this look a little bit prettier. So the site address, I'm just going to put down as, let's see, the Courtyard Barn Place. I'm just going to make something up now. And the date, we'll put today's date. Name of employees, good old John Smith, John Jones, and let's say John's brother Dave is working with them. Next thing we need to do is a description of task. Let's say for this task we'll do something that's a fairly common hazard, which is working from ladders. So if we say they are doing internal decoration from ladders and steps. Okay, so we've kind of got our background information for why we're putting the risk assessment together. There's going to be some other information that we'll put underneath as well, but first steps are going to be to identify the hazards. So the first hazard that we're going to have is, let's say, working. Change the font so that's not in bold. So the first hazard that we'll have is working from ladders. The second hazard that we might have is hazardous substances, paint. One of the third hazards that we might have are slips, trips and falls. And let's just put one more example in there, which would be working with the general public. Okay, so then what we've got to do is we've got to decide who might be harmed and how. So working from ladders, we could say something like who might be harmed and how. So we could say employees working for the company could fall and suffer musculoskeletal injuries. Falling objects from height could cause head injuries. Okay, so what we're basically saying there is when they're working from the ladder, if they fall from the ladder, they could suffer from back injuries or muscular injuries, or they could break bones. Falling objects, if they drop equipment, tins of paint, things like that from the ladders, they could cause head injuries. We would then go on to the next section, which is hazardous substances. So we could say that employees could suffer from respiratory, good old spell check,